Welcome to the last part of the 3 parts sharing for 7 killing. And so today's last part we will focus on the remedies for having unfavorable 7 killing. Now, generally, based on the classical text, 7 killing is unfavorable. However, 7 killing usefulness is one that when a person has 7 killing star, the person is bestowed with leadership qualities. When a person speaks with authority. The person is capable of instilling fear, demonstration of position, status, power. However, the philosophy of the 7 killing is that might is right. 7 killing people are practical. They understand that the world is not ideal and perfect. They understand that if you want power, you have to earn it. And anyone who doesn't deserve to be in power should be removed. 7K is ruthless. 7K is aggressive. 7K people are innovative. They're innovative as they constantly find ways to break the rules. They would like to go against the norm. They are contrarian by nature. And so when favorable, 7K people are charming, they are charismatic, they have very strong ambition, and they are very capable of being involved in high-risk ventures. And so 7 killing people drives the economy, they drive society, they push people forward with their strong energy. However, when 7 killing is unfavorable, the person can be despotic, the person can be spiteful, petty, the person can be very suspicious and revengeful. And in the past, when there were feudalism, when power is hereditary, a nation will be cursed when a 7K, weak 7K claims the throne. Usually that will be where the small people will suffer. And so this is where people with weak day master, weak self and strong K, if they are given power or handed power, and therefore that would be quite alarming for the general public. And so fear is the theme for 7K. So the opposite of fear is a very timid coward, and that would be also a person with too strong 7K. Alright, so as usual, as we go along, this is where we'll have the summary of the checklist for today. And this summary checklist is the same for all checklists that we often do. As you know, step number 1, where do we always start with? We always start with the day master. So you always look at the day master, identify the strength of the day master. So for today, let's start off with one character by the name of Vladimir Putin. So Vladimir Putin is the leader of Russia. I'm sure many of you would know this name. And so let's start with Vladimir Putin, shall we? Well, as we always start with the day master. And so Vladimir Putin is a pink fire day master, spire. He's born in the month of the rooster. Which season does the rooster belongs to? The season of autumn, where metal rules. And fire, of course, is summer. Summer comes before autumn, therefore fire is trapped. So fire is a trapped energy. So the season is out for Vladimir Putin. But is he rooted? Is he rooted? He is rooted here and partially rooted here. So he has some rooting. Is there resource? Do we find resource star for Vladimir Putin? And you find the resource. So the resource produces the day master. it is rooted, and therefore these are the things that we do to check on the strength of the day master. So we look at the season, we look at the routing, and we look into the resource. And so Putin is adequately strong, not very strong, not at its peak or prosperous state, but somewhat it has some degree of strength in it. Not weak, but more towards slightly above the average type of a strength of a day master. So that's Putin for you, a pink fire day master. And now, for the purpose of today, our specific focus is on 7 killing. So what do? We now look into the location and the strength of the 7 killing. So where do we find 7 killing for Putin? Now what is a 7 killing for a pink fire day master? Water. Water controls fire. So as water controls fire, so therefore as water controls fire, rainwater becomes the 7 killing. And so do we find rainwater anywhere on this chart? Yes, we do. The water is the season that comes after autumn, and therefore water is at the growth stage for this chart. So water is strong and it's not rooted, it's unrooted. Generally, we would welcome 7 killing but once. Therefore, Putin has only 1 7 killing. Splendid. 1 is all we need. We don't need, or we don't want to see too many 7 killings in the chart. 1 is good, and this one is protruded, and this one is strong. Okay, so that's how we identify the location of the 7 killing on the year pillar and on the year stem. Therefore, this represents the fasa. And therefore, Vladimir Putin has a 7 killing fasa. So the first impression for this person is one of a tough guy, a warrior, a gangster. Thus, Vladimir Putin gives you that impression when you see his face without encountering any further. Thus, he gives you that vibe of a 7 killing. Therefore, that's Vladimir Putin for you. 7K. Moreover, Vladimir Putin is a pink fire. The thing about pink fire is there is something extra for pink fire. As the reading goes, 丙火不理壬水，壬水不理丙火. Translated, it means that pink fire does not leave rainwater. Rainwater does not leave pink fire. And this means that pink fire always welcome rainwater. And rainwater always need or welcome pink fire. So if you look into the useful god, if you look into the regulating elements for the day master, you will discover or realize that for pink fire, rainwater is always the useful god. Because the pink fire is denoted by the sun. And when the sun traverses across the ocean, the sun sees the reflection. Pink fire people are quite narcissistic at times, and therefore being reflected, the rays, makes them greater, or make them more glorious. And therefore pink fire needs the ocean, and the ocean needs the pink fire for warmth. And so these two codependency renders that rainwater will always welcome pink fire, and pink fire will always welcome rainwater. So this means that for Vladimir Putin, we may not even need to go further to check the strength of the day master or the 7 killing. He's a pink fire. He welcomes rainwater. And so 7 killing is favorable. And with a minor exception to it. So that is why it is often understood that of all the 10 gods, of all the 10 types of day masters, the pink fire day master using 7K is one of the most powerful of the 7Ks that we have. By nature itself, pink fire is already powerful and dynamic, and with 7 killing in the chart makes this chart one of a very powerful person. And so that is one for you. Vladimir Putin is a pink fire day master with 1 water, 7 killing, has a has the first impression on the way that we can deal with it. Right, more towards it. So we identify the location and the strength of the 7 killing. We check for protrusion, to which Vladimir Putin has, and no hidden element. Hidden. And when it is completely hidden. Traditionally, we do not like to see hidden 7K, because hidden means that it is not noticeable, visible by the public, and therefore it is often not something that we welcome. And make even worse, we now check for direct officer, the presence of direct officer. With the exceptions of the 10 gods, when it comes to officer star, we only want to see one of them, not both of them. If you have 7K, we don't want to see direct officer. And if you have direct officer, we don't want to see 7K. And this is where we have the Quan Shahun Shah. And so the Quan Shahun Shah, it basically means confusion. And confusion indicates that the person is prone to make wrong readings. And so when it comes to Vladimir Putin, if he has a 7K, we do not wish to see direct officer. Now look at this chart again. Do we find direct officer? Do you find direct officer? Yes, you do. Not just do we find direct officer protruded to the stems, we also find direct officer closer to the day master. We also find that this direct officer is rooted. It is rooted. So there is rooting, there is proximity, and therefore Vladimir Putin has a problem. His problem is direct officer 7K confusion. So Vladimir Putin has a problem on the chart. He has a direct officer 7K confusion. So this means that for him, his military strategies will be vulnerable to defeat, vulnerable to not being strategically too brilliant. So Vladimir Putin may not enter the Hall of Fame to be one of the more brilliant war generals. Any command or decisions that he made may be susceptible to strategic errors. And so if Vladimir Putin understands this, then he should not be the one to make strategic military plans or any other plans for that. He has this problem. All right, so that's what we are looking at when we investigate the chart. Look for direct officer for potential confusion. 7K generally is not favorable because 7K represents death, it represents illnesses, prison, it represents bullies, petty people. And so, if you have 7K in your chart, you would want to have eating God to control it, direct resource to weaken it, hurting officer to control it. And so now, let's revisit Vladimir Putin's chart to ask the question, do we find eating God in this chart? Is there eating God? Does Vladimir Putin has eating God in his chart? Yes, we can see there is one here. We can see there's another one here. We can see there's another one here. So Vladimir Putin has 3 eating gods to control the 7K. Do we find hurting officer? Do you find hurting officer anywhere? Oh yes, protruded. Huh? Hurting officer controlling 7K. Now generally rainwater doesn't like G-earth. When G-earth mixed with rainwater, it muddies the water. Mud, it becomes mud. And once it becomes mud, in terms of health, this is cancer. So water contaminated, contaminated water with G-earth denotes cancer. And so cancer to the head will be something that Vladimir Putin will have to worry about as he has this in his chart. Anyway, nonetheless, it is hurting officer controlling 7K nonetheless. Last question. Resource. Do we find direct resource? Do we find direct resource to weaken the 7 killing? And so yes, we do. And so Vladimir Putin has sufficient elements to control that 7K. It has 3 eating gods, it has 1 direct resource, and it has a hurting officer to check that 7K. So this 7K is useful. This 7K will be beneficial to the pink fire Putin. Alright, and so what problem does Putin has? Well, he has that direct officer 7K confusion. So that's what we would like to entail. That's what we like to investigate or to check. Okay, now what happens when it is completely hidden? Now when it's completely hidden and there is confusion, from what we shared last week, if you could recall, something that we don't welcome is that if there is a direct officer protruded onto the stamp, but a 7K structure. So a person having a 7K structure but a direct officer facade basically portrays a person who is good, law-abiding, nice. But deep inside, the person is a plotter, the person is cunning, devious, and possibly sinister. And therefore, we don't like to see this kind of relationship. This is not the favorable type of people that we would like to deal with. On to the other hand, if it is 7K and direct officer, it is not fantastic, I would say, but it is better because the facade is one of 7K, but deep inside the person is law-abiding and the person follows the rule and is good. So, not so bad. But now, what is bad is when it is hidden. Now, if it is hidden and not protruded at all, therefore it is completely hidden. And for it to be completely hidden, now the location and the type and the stage will be the next question. And so when we look into those that are hidden, not the best, because protrusion allows the elements to manifest itself effectively. And so for people who are involved in high-risk sports or ventures or not, they should have their 7K protruded. So therefore they can then use them for the things that they do in their career. Now if it is at least if it is hidden, it will be acceptable if it is hidden in the growth branches. What are the growth branches? What are the growth branches for spring? We have the yin tiger, the snake for summer, the monkey for autumn, and the pig for winter. So tiger, snake, monkey, and pig are the growth branches. Now, growth denotes growing. Therefore, growing power and authority also means that 7K can be cultivated and they can still be auspicious. The one that we consider to be inauspicious will be the 7K hidden in graveyard. What are the graveyards? The graveyard for spring will be the dragon. The graveyard for summer will be the goat. And for the autumn, it will be the dog. And for winter, that will be the ox. And therefore, 7K hidden in graveyard branches will be inauspicious. This person could be perceived, could be seen to have a very sinister intention. In Joey Yap's book, written in 2010, under the introduction of the 10 gods, Joey Yap mentioned that serial killers are likely examples of people having 7K hidden in graveyard branches. Let's check out a few of them. Let's look into Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy, infamous, notorious as a serial killer, has confessed to murder more than 30 people. He would beguile young women, rape them, and murder them. And so let's take a look into Ted Bundy's chart. You can see, of course, number one, he's a Ren Day Master, born in winter. Water is peak rooted, very strong Day Master. And 7K, does he have 7K? He has 7K here and 7K here. And so 7K is hidden and he has a direct officer. And so Ted Bundy has a chart whereby on the surface he appears to be a goody two shoes, law-abiding type of a person, having direct officer protruding and 7 killing hidden, and is hidden in the graveyard of the dog on the year peak. So therefore this would be quite sinister to begin with. Also hidden between the tiger, which is of course growth. But then this will be the case where we can see the chart where 7K is hidden in the graveyard. We take a look into another one, which is Alton Coleman, another serial killer. And again, we look into this chart of a Sin Day Master, strong Sin Day Master, born in season and rooted. And here we have 7 killing. The 7 killing of a Sin metal is fire. Fire controls metal. So the Yin fire, which is the Ting fire, 3 of them hidden. Hidden 7K while direct officer is protruded. There is a direct officer 7K confusion. Confusion means mental problem, possibly mental disorder, or sometimes possibly later Alzheimer's disease or incognizance. And here the 7K is hidden in the goat, in the dog, in the goat, all graveyard, all having destructions with one another. Therefore, the goat destruct the dog destruct the goat, indicating that this person will have very difficult life, constantly being challenged, moved all around, and therefore harboring very sinister servant killing threat under what appears to be a direct officer which is unrooted. No? Therefore, it is a threat, an unrooted direct officer of the pink fire. And so this indicates that this person has always one that is nutrition and sinister. We'll take a look into yet another serial killer by the name of Luis Gravato, a Colombian serial killer who have been found to have murdered 147 predominantly minor young men and boys. Here we have a Ting Fire Day Master. What is the seventh killing for a Ting Fire? Water. Kueh water. And we find kueh water hidden here. Now, to be fair, of course, we do not have the hour pillar. So without the hour pillar, we do not know what are the stories that can be unfolded. But here, we have a hidden seven killing, hidden under the chart of the ox, which is a graveyard. So seven killing hidden in graveyard. There is, of course, a direct officer confusion. So there is a direct officer confusion with seven killing. The eating god is present, but eating god is trapped, while the seven killing is peaked and hidden in graveyard. This would denote that somewhat some kind of a sinister person. Now, please, of course, not everyone who has 7K hidden in graveyard are all serial killers. Neither are only those serial killers must have this particular chart. Our purpose here is not, our purpose, of course, is to understand the human psychology of this, indicating what will be the challenges and experience that people of such would encounter. Because hidden, anything that is hidden are things that are pent up. Anything that is hidden is undisclosed. Secret. Therefore, when we find that there are any problem, some kind of an injustice that is being pent up or undisclosed, it can then spur people to commit crime, because seven killing is about such nature as well. Okay, so if you as a Pachi practitioner were to consult clients or people, please don't straight away label them as a potential serial killer. Possibly, if you do that, you might be a victim yourself. No, I'm just joking. So what I mean is, please don't immediately designate all 7K hidden in graveyard to be serial killers. Just to recognize that they do have challenges or problems that they need to sort out in order to ensure that their life will run very smoothly. And so this is what we need to do, identify problems that people have in their charts. Whether they have a hidden 7K in graveyard problem, whether they have a direct officer 7K confusion or not. Then we check for the eating god. Right, now with this in mind, let us move along to find out what can you do. So now here comes the remedies. What are the remedies? The remedies has what we have already discussed earlier. The most ideal and preferred element is eating god to control 7K. So remedy number one, use eating god. That is when your self is weak and your 7K is too strong. Use eating god. Now, when I say use eating god, or when you advise your clients what are use eating god, of course, we have to be a bit clear. Clients cannot ask you, where do I buy eating god? Lazada, Shopee, Amazon? Is it ordered online? Is there a discount special sale? Where do I buy my eating god? How do I use eating god? So to use eating god is to manifest eating god, is to act out eating god. Again, you can only do so if you have eating god in your chart. So if you have EG in your chart, Vladimir Putin has EG in his chart. He has EG in his chart. Even though the EG is hidden under a graveyard star, even though the EG is weak, out of season, he has it. If you have EG, you can use EG. And to use EG is to behave like an EG. To behave. To go to places. To meet people, which represents EG. For example, as per mentioned, when 7K is unfavorable, 7K becomes rash. 7K looks out to fight, is argumentative, looking for a fight, being rash, impetus, instilling fear, showing anger. That's 7K being unfavorable. Eating God is non-confrontational. EG uses psychological warfare, use brain and not brawn. And eating God appreciate the finer things in life. And so if this person understands that there is 7K. Now to understand 7K, of course, is to understand where 7K is in your chart. Whether like Vladimir Putin, your 7K is a facade. Whether like Napoleon Bonaparte, your 7K is a structure. Or maybe you have no 7K, but 7K appears in your luck pillar. Whether it appears in your current year, or maybe the month, or maybe even the day. If 7K appears in your luck pillar, the luck pillar lasts for 10 years. 10 years is long enough for a prison time. 10 years is long enough for a bad career because of a bad boss. 7K is long enough for lawsuits or prison, or is the same thing, yeah? And therefore 7K can also mean health issue. 7K is also death. And so 7K luck pillar should be treated seriously because it is one that can bring death, major accidents, lawsuits, bad boss, if it is very unfavorable. If it's a current year, it could be still bad enough for a lawsuit. It's still bad enough for a bad boss as well. Legal matters. Could be something that also quite disrupt the entire year. If it is a month, maybe it's petty people. Maybe it's gangster. Maybe it's corrupted police or politicians. Being harassed by corrupted politicians, soliciting bribery. Corrupt police looking for problems for you. Gangsters, triad societies, extortion, petty people. Maybe it can be haters, trolls, social media, cancel culture. These are the manifestations of unfavorable 7K arriving. And therefore, this will be where we are trying to use whatever EG that we have, whatever direct resource that we have, whatever hurting officer that we have, in order to control, weaken the arrival of the 7 killing. Therefore, use eating God. To use eating God is to anticipate the arrival of 7 killing and the problems it causes. 7 killing is refined, 7 killing is research, 7 killing is educated. Therefore, use education, use the manifestation of 7 killing. But you can only use if you have it. If you do not have 7 killing, if you have no EG, if there is no EG in your chart, you have no affinity. Having no affinity, having no ability to trade, then no point you trade, no point you train as an EG, no point for you to develop any EG skills because you have none. Now, people who have 7K and no EG, there's no point learning to refine things. You eat like a brute, you eat like a savage. Nothing in you is refined. So no point going for fine dining. No point wasting money on all these high culture stuff because you're not one of them. You're just a brutish 7K with no appreciation for the finer things in life. So use other people. That is remedy number 2. So remedy number 1, use EG in your chart. If you don't have, then use other people. Use other. So when I say use other people, of course, let's say for example, if you are the boss and you are the 7K, nasty, unfavorable, brutish bully, and then you have your staff. So if you do not do anything, then you may manifest anger, temperament, despotic, revengeful, spiteful, and your staff might leave you. You might end up in a bit of a problem. Therefore, to use other people is to employ an intermediary. To employ an intermediary. So that you do not deal directly, you have somebody else to do so, and that person has EG elements, direct resource elements. And therefore, when the boss attempts to exert, the EG is there to control it, the direct resource is there to weaken it. Therefore, this manager can handle this boss, has the ability and the skills to do so, and that will be the use of the people to get what you want. So remedy number 2 is to find people, especially direct resource. Now, direct resource basically means your mentor. Direct resource would mean your advisor. Direct resource would mean your coach. So emperors of the past have cabinet ministers even until today. So you can have a coaches, you can have coach, mentor, advisor, somebody who constantly rein you back so that you will not make any impetus decision. So this will be the use of this. Okay, remedy number 3, use feng shui. Please remember, never activate 7 killing. You do not look for your 7 killing and activate it. That's not what I meant. You don't do that. You activate eating God. You activate direct resource. So let's take a look into Ted Bundy, for example. If we need to look into Ted Bundy, he has a direct officer and 7 killing confusion. Or even if we look into Vladimir Putin, for example, he has a direct officer and 7 killing. So having this problem in a natal chart, direct officer and 7 killing confusion, the remedy is to neutralize one of them. Take one of them out. Because he is the leader of Russia and Russia is at war, and because 7 killing is useful for him, then take out direct officer. So he should take out direct officer. But for the interest of an academic discussion for today, if ever the solution calls for the taking out of 7K, then we activate the eating god to control the 7K. We activate the direct resource to weaken the 7K. Then we need to see that for the case of Vladimir Putin, his eating god will be the Wu Earth. And where is Wu Earth? Where is Wu Earth? Where is Wu Earth to the chart? And so for the case of Vladimir Putin, Wu Earth can be found in the dog, northwest one. Wu Earth can be found in the dragon, which is southeast one. And therefore, Vladimir Putin can find that in the southeast one or in the northwest one of the chart, he could perhaps find his activation. And so right from the middle of the chart into the location, this would be the part where he can find the quadrant on it. Now certain location at the main door. The main door is already activated. The main door is the mouth of the chi. And therefore, if the main door so happens to be 7 killing, that would be quite inauspicious for the person. If the main door is as such. So the main door is on the Chi Earth. The main door is on the Chou, which is the hurting officer. So hurting officer, not bad. And we have your eating god controlling your 7K. So in this case, we can say, so please remember, never activate 7 killing. Now make sure 7 killing is not activated in your chart. Activate eating god, activate hurting officer, not the best. Activate direct resource, even better. Therefore, that's remedy number 3. So these are the remedies that we have on how to overcome, to control 7K. Now, hurting officer can be used. Hurting officer is not the best because hurting officer shares similar traits with 7 killing. Both of them are rebellious, both of them challenge authority, and both of them represents very forced control. And therefore, when the hurting officer one day is weakened, combined away or clash away, it will then allow the 7K to explode into a more potential disruptive force. So 7K, not the most ideal form of controlling. Best to use eating god, best to use direct resource. Direct resource weakens, neutralizes. Normally as a feng shui remedy, we would rather have weakening and neutralizing force rather than having a direct control force. So anyway, 7K is impulsive, 7K is ruthless, direct resource is slow thinking, direct resource is meticulous, direct resource is research, and therefore having research would allow you to learn better to prevent the committing of an illegal activity. And having eating god, which is refined culture, would allow you to not behave ruthlessly. And therefore, if you are not prone to ruthless anger, you do not shout, you do not instigate, you will not be stabbed or arrested. And therefore, you will avoid the dangers of an unfavorable 7K. Therefore, use your chart, control it, and to eliminate it. Now, what happens when you do not have 7K? When self has no 7K. Now, generally speaking, if any element is missing from your natal chart, then you have no affinity with it. It's not favorable, and the negative feature will appear. So in that case, if you have no 7K, you do not wish to see 7K. And if you are strong, you can control 7K better than all the best. For example, let's take a look at Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, pink fire, born in the spring month of Tiger. Fire is the element after spring. Fire is growth. Fire is strong. This fire is rooted. And again, remember, pink fire has an exception. Pink fire always welcome rainwater, which is 7 Ki. Moreover, this pink fire has EG side by side. It has EG here, it has EG here. So Steve Jobs has 4 eating god. Steve Jobs has direct officer. Steve Jobs have direct resource. So he has direct resource, he has direct resource, he has hurting officer, and he has eating god. There's adequate elements in the chart to withstand the arrival of 7 killing. But Steve Jobs himself has no 7 killing. His chart has 0 7 killing. So Steve Jobs is a strong day master with no 7 killing. So Steve Jobs would not give you the impression of the facade of a fearsome gangster. He will look very nice, decent, nothing of his personality instill any form of ruthless authority or whatnot from this particular impression. And so Steve Jobs has no 7 killing. Naturally, he wouldn't welcome 7 killing. He is adequate enough to withstand some of the 7. However, the arrival of the rain in the pillar, rainwater represents 7 killing. And the arrival of the 7 killing pillar starting in the year 2011 is where Steve Jobs has finally received his last 7 killing. And so at the end of the day, whether 7 killing is favorable or unfavorable, 7 killing generally is unfavorable because one of the symbols that it brings is illnesses and ultimately death. And so, of course, as we read our chart, there are things that we cannot control, there are things that we obey on the law of nature. And so as we read the chart, that's how we would like to consider. Alright, so that's it for today. Thank you very much. As we begin in the next one, we will begin with a new part of one of the time gods. Thank you.